Thank you all for being here. Good morning to you all. My name is Angela Pansella. I am the Director of Woven Oak Initiatives, which is an organization catalyzing the common good in Norwood. And we're one of the organizations that teamed up to help put this quality of life planning process together. So it's a really wonderful pleasure to welcome you here all this morning. So I've been getting some questions as you go about, like, what is this all about and why are we doing this, and haven't we done planning processes before, and aren't they a waste of time, and how does anything happen out of them anyway? So I just wanted to start by letting you know this one is a little different because it's really resident-led. It's all of our input that goes into this planning process. It's not come down from above. It begins with you. It's action-oriented. We're going to see things in the process of talking together that we can all do to make the quality of life improved in Norwood. And you will see positive change as a result. So this today is a call to action. So with that in mind, I want to welcome to the stage my compadre here, Mary C. Miller.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know all of you, but I'm really glad that you're here, and I hope by the time the process is completed that I will know more of you, and I'm really excited that you're here. Today's report out is a result of several groups in our community coming together with the goal of envisioning hopes and dreams for Norwood and translating that vision into reality. As different groups began talking about a direction to move and started interviewing other communities, the advice was all the same. You need a quality of life plan. So, at the same time, there were organizations in Hamilton County that really wanted to work with us and help us get that done. So, the organizations LISC, Local Initiative Support Corporation, the Interact for Health, Woven Oak, the Community Coalition, Norwood Neighborhood Services, and Norwood First all played vital roles to help move this process forward. I'd like to take a moment. If you're a member of any of those groups, please stand. And I'd just like to give them a big hand because they're the backbone. A steering committee was formed, and each person met for one-on-one interviews with local residents from the north, south, east, and west, new residents and lifelong ones, all ages, races, and religions, renters and homeowners, local officials, and everyday neighbors, who answered the question, what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in Norwood? All of that data was tabulated, and you have a summary, and passing around among you are all the answers that we received from those interviews of 100 or more residents. From those 100 residents, 8 were chosen as presenters for the consistent themes that showed up through all the interviews. But this is not just a presentation. After hearing the results from the presenters, you are going to get a chance to share what you would like to see happen in our community. You will have the opportunity to work on a committee to formulate an action plan for Norwood, and this plan will roll out in the fall. But today, we're going to create a vision, all of us together. Before we hear from our presenters, I'd like to introduce the steering committee. Please stand as I call your name. Sarah Allen, Hillary Cannon, Shagari Chatterjee, Lonnie Elfenbein, Lupe Hoyt, Angela Pansella, Alice Rarica, David Spatholt, and Leslie Stevenson. Let's give them a big hand too. Angela, Lonnie, Lupe, and I will be introducing our presenters today. So, with all that said, let's begin. Our first presenter is Hillary Cannon. Hillary's lived in Norwood for about 4 years. She and her husband are journalists. Her 2 boys attend Williams Elementary School, And you may have seen Hillary at the community garden for story time, or her husband coaching knothole. Let's welcome Hillary to talk about infrastructure.
Good morning. So when we first found our house, it was winter. We were looking for our new home to live in, and we came to Norwood, and we were trying to explore the city a little bit. And I remember being a little shocked on my first ride down Montgomery Road. You know how that goes. Ga-dunk, 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 ga-dunk. But we were so in love with our beautiful 100-year-old house and the walkable community and this big old brick school building that reminded me of the one I went to that my boys could walk to every day, and the community garden and the big Carnegie-built library and the store close by and banks, and it was so close to downtown, and we just didn't care. We fell in love with this city and the shape of it and what it was. And so we figured any potholes along the way, well, you know what? That's just winter in Ohio. So we bought our house. And we moved in the spring, and we moved in just in time for our entire street to be torn up to shreds. So I didn't even have a sidewalk up to my house because the crumbling and ancient gas lines had to be replaced. It was a nuisance, not ideal, but that's what comes with an old city, right? Maintenance, upkeep, and maintenance is good. And of course, you know, ga-dunk, ga-dunk, ga-dunking our way down Montgomery Road to the library and Kroger that spring, we were starting to wonder, when does the maintenance on the roads happen? You guys know how this goes. It doesn't. And you just get used to it. We all talk about it. Is your road the worst? No, mine's the worst. No, this one's the worst. And you learn which roads to avoid. And it's what we talk about instead of the weather here in Norwood. And so you drive, I mean, you figure out which roads to go to, and you go around them. And there was one road I just flatly refused to go on, Williams, west of Montgomery. That wasn't going to happen. Never mind the fact that it was the fastest way to the community center from my house. I was not going to go that way. I just went ga-dunk-ga-dunking across other roads. And then when I got to the community center, you know, I got used to that too. You ignore the water damage. You ignore the fraying carpet. And you just are really thankful for the wonderful umpires, referees in basketball, sorry. My boys would be so upset. You get used to the wonderful referees and the coaches pausing the game so they can bang the nails back into the floorboards, right? Because that's what we do. And then one day I was on the way to someplace, and I came to the intersection of Williams and Montgomery, and there in front of me, there was this big, beautiful piece of asphalt. I swear to you, there were angels singing. It was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. It was big, and it was black, and it was smooth, and suddenly, like, the way I approached the city changed. I could just go straight across. I could go straight across Montgomery, I could hang a right, and I could be at the community center in like 5 minutes. It was amazing. And, you know, besides opening up a new part of the city for me, I had literally never really been or looked on that road before. I had never seen those houses, because when I had been on that road, I was dodging potholes. Besides doing that, it reminded me that we don't have to get used to this. We can fix it. You know, when we painted our house, that was upkeep. That's what we do to the old things that are beautiful. This city has beautiful bones, and it's maybe not easy. And you're going to hear later from Leslie and from Andrew, who are going to talk about so many assets and potential partners that we could lean on. But we have a lot of dedicated people, and we have assets in the city, and we don't have to get used to just seeing it crumble. We can take care of it. We can work together to make it better.
Gadunk, gadunk. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get that out of my head. So thank you, Hillary. That was fantastic. Thank you. And promising for truly what we see in Norwood. As you can imagine, another central theme as we went through this project was city government and the way we interact with city government. And Rob Westerman is here to speak about city government. Rob is the pastor, the campus pastor for SNC Church. He's been involved with Norwood for approximately 4 years. He's one of the founders of Brick Coffee House, which has gone a long way towards building community within Norwood. And I had the opportunity to hear Rob's story last night for the first time, and I'm really pleased to be able to present Rob today so you can all hear it today. Thank you.
Thank you. You see, I wear a couple different hats, sometimes three. I am a pastor, and really when it comes to the coffee shop, I don't do anything there but drink the coffee now after we got it off and running. So you might see me as a guy sitting in the corner, and that's all I do is sit in the corner and work at the coffee house. But for the last 20 years, not only have I been a pastor, but I've been in renovation and remodeling of homes. I recently found myself in Norwood, renovating some of the beautiful homes that we have around here. But like I said, I was a part of a team that brought a community together with a coffee house. Now, I don't know anything about being a barista, and if I'm honest, I really don't know the difference in coffee blends. But I do know a lot about relationships. And I know the importance of relationships. And I know the power behind healthy relationships. All through this committee, we heard the same thing over and over again. This word of transparency. And transparency in the government. I would say that most people in general would say that transparency in the government would be something that would give away freely. A lot of folks that think that transparency would just give it away. It's transparency. But I would disagree. That's not my thoughts. You see, I think transparency, much like trust, it must be earned. You see, I've been married for 21 years, and I am much more transparent with that girl than someone that is a mere acquaintance that I just met. However, government and residents and communities, we demand transparency, but when the reality is, we're just acquaintance. We've never really taken time to get to know one another. We step back and we believe, or we assume that we know each other. We know each other's motives, each other's needs, but that is not the reality that is in front of us. I think in most municipalities, residents and officials, whether they're elected or appointed, I believe for the most part, they want what's best for the community. We heard over and over about the lack of transparency, the lack of communication. We heard about the Good Old Boys Club. We heard it over and over. And I know each person in here today probably has their own story when it comes to local government. Some of them are horror stories. And your story is very real to you. However, let me tell you my story. I've spent much time with local officials. A lot of them are the building officials because of the home renovations that I do here. And I can tell you that department has been very valuable as we have come together and our relationship has grown together for one common goal, and that is to beautify Norwood. Just this past week, I found myself in a situation where one of my projects came to a halt. Everybody out of the pool. No more work can be done. At no fault of the city, at no fault really of mine, it was just one of them things that happened. So with a phone call, and within 15 minutes, I was down at the counter at the city building, talking with the building department. And with 1 hour, in less than 1 hour after that phone call, I had all the documentation and the permits that I needed to continue that job. It's that relationship. It's that common goal, that common bond to let's beautify Norwood. Now, I know that's not your story, and I can tell you stories that aren't like that. I can tell you stories where it didn't turn out like that. Stories that projects cost me thousands of dollars more because of no fault of my own, because of decisions that local government makes. However, today's not the day to dwell on those. You see, I don't see those breeding any kind of positivity. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I loaded up our 3 kids. We loaded up our SUV and we looked, man, just like the Griswolds. We had bikes hanging on the back. And we found ourselves going down 65 south. And right when we got into Alabama, it was just done. I mean, we stopped. Not like slow stop. We stopped, put it in park. Everybody's done stopped. And as I looked at my app, I realized that we were not going to go forward anytime soon. As I scrolled and I looked, and it was just red, 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 red. I thought at that time I only have one decision, and that's to sit here. But as I looked around, I realized that right behind me was an exit ramp. And if I could just back up a little bit, I could get off this ramp. I don't know exactly where it goes, but I know it's better than this right here. So now my one decision that I thought I had turned into two. And I backed up. And I got off that ramp. And I can tell you that eventually I ended up where I needed to go. I got my family to Florida. And I can tell you that I could have sat there in traffic. And I could have yelled at the cars in front of me. And I could have said it's not right that I'm sitting in traffic. But that traffic would not have moved. Only when I backed up did I start to go forward. And I can tell you that sometimes we need to do the same thing. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. These are the words that are usually credited to Albert Einstein. I believe sometimes we need to look at our circumstances and back up. Sometimes government needs to look at community and the residents and back up. Sometimes the community and the residents need to look at the government and back up. Get off the exit and try a different route. There is no value at yelling at the cars in front of us. It's not going to make the traffic move. Can you imagine with me? If we as one people, government and community, earn transparency, it might mean that we back up and get off the exit. It might mean that we try a route that's less traveled, but however, we will travel this route together as one, as government and as citizens. I believe that as Norwood residents look to earn the transparency that we so long for, we must give transparency in return. No more hiding behind social media posts or long-winded conversations in the parking lot that lead to nowhere. But we actually take personal time and we openly communicate with our government. No more of this, I hired you to do a job mentality, but it's a relationship that we build together. Could you imagine what that would look like? Let's move to create an open door policy, but that door must open both ways. As we look through the door of government, we must open our door where government can look through our doors. That is only where real transparency comes from. So as we talk about transparency in our government, we must realize that it is something that is earned, not something that's going to be given away freely. However, can you imagine with me what true transparency might look like?
Thank you, Rob. Our next speaker is a longtime resident in South Norwood. He's also very active in the Vineyard Central community, and with his company DGM Transformations, he has worked on many home and business projects, including the new Lydia's House space. So he is our Mr. Fix-It. His name is Don McNeil, and he's here to speak with us about economic development. Please welcome Don.
Well, Rob, your speech was truly encouraging and inspiring. I've worked all over Cincinnati. I've had to navigate through the processes of plan approvals and permits and inspections. I've also found Norwood here, though, to be probably the best place to work. It's one of the easiest places to work with our building department. However, starting up a business here was not quite so. I'm currently the owner of DGM Transformations, LLC, a remodeling company based here in Norwood. In 1984, my wife, pregnant then with twins, and I made a decision to move from the ever-increasing rent of an apartment up in Kenwood into home ownership with the benefit of building equity as well as greater space for a growing family. With our realtor, we explored properties all over Cincinnati. And in that process, we discovered the gem of the Highlands. Older yet affordable homes that fit our budget, a small town feel that I had grown up with in Western Pennsylvania. And at that time, neighbors who wanted to know my name. A small market at the end of the street, churches, tires, a grocery store, pizza, ice cream, and even donuts, all within a few blocks of our home. So we bought our gem and began fixing it up. Norwood was a great location for work. I was teaching in Fairfield, my wife working in Covington, and the ease of access to employment, it's even to this day remained to be a benefit for through 34 years and 4 different jobs for myself. This has been a great place for our children's education as well. Quality of education in Norwood is great. Sports, maybe not so. When our children were old enough to work, there were plenty of opportunities within walking distance of our home. Those jobs became a base and even a reference for them as they graduated and launched into their own careers. Late in 2007, as the American economy took a major downturn, I made a decision to begin my own business. I wanted to transform living and working spaces to make them better for people. Thus, the birth of DGM Transformations. I soon found that it was actually a great business atmosphere, especially for remodeling. Homeowners everywhere, but especially here in Norwood, were choosing to renovate and remain in their old homes. Selling the old starter home and moving to the suburbs for many was put on hold. Many found that their old house could be made ideal with a little renovation, and as a result, they chose to remain here in Norwood even for the long term. My business took off, and to this day, we rely only on word-of-mouth advertising to keep our schedule full. But despite the great environment for business, the beginning weeks of setting up an office in a renovated storefront on Montgomery Road proved to be a little frustrating. First, the building inspector showed up and delayed us, requiring us to have a special permit just because we removed the toilet to lay down a new vinyl floor. We needed a permit to put the toilet back. Then, the day that we opened for business, we were shut down again. The same department that we had gone to get a vendor's license from came and told us that we couldn't start because we hadn't filled out a particular business operation form that they required. Although these things were quickly resolved, and even that first 24 hours after we hoped to open were frustrating and a very unpleasant experience. Since then, I've heard similar stories from other small businesses who, starting up and believing that they had done all their homework, and they ended up meeting with similar roadblocks of getting started here in Norwood. From my perspective, it appears that large companies with teams of lawyers and planners and years of experience are better equipped to navigate all this red tape. Larger companies negotiate abatements and other tax incentives that make doing business here lucrative for them, but it doesn't seem so much so for the city of Norwood. The hope would be that they would remain beyond their incentives and strengthen our local economy, but that's not always so. There's a sense that it's more important to attract a new General Motors than it is to develop the many small businesses whose owners and workers live here and work here and pay their taxes here. Creating a coalition to help small businesses begin in Norwood, renovate and occupy the many storefronts and buildings along Montgomery Road that are now empty, could help develop a strong and healthy economic base that supports our infrastructure and maintains our desired quality of life well into the future. Thank you.
It's great to see so many familiar faces in the community here. My name is Lupe Gonzalez-Hoyt of Norwood Neighborhood Services. One of the benefits that our community has is Lydia's house. And we have referred many people to there, and I really am humbled by Mary Ellen Mitchell, who is the founder of Lydia's House, to come and speak before you about her projects in housing. Thank you.
Hello. So I'm a 12-year resident of Norwood, and as Lupe mentioned, the director of Lydia's House, which is a supportive shelter and kind of long-term community for women and children that are going through some kind of crisis, typically economic crisis, housing crisis. So I thought I would start this speech on housing by kind of outlining my own Norwood housing journey, which is many and varied. I moved to Norwood first in 2006 at the behest of friends. Come, they said, live in our basement, help us with our newborn baby, rent-free. I was probably 24 and that sounded like a good idea. I lived in a shared housing arrangement for about 6 months, complete with my own Norwood basement toilet. I enrolled in a master's program in Xavier. It was convenient to campus. I could bike, and let me underline again, it was free. So shortly thereafter, I got full-time employment at a downtown nonprofit and commuted by car. With the addition of income, I rented a one-bedroom apartment on the corner of Carter and Cortland for $510 a month. I got engaged, married, and we moved to Covington, where my husband owned his own little shotgun house. We loved Covington, and there are a lot of benefits to living in Covington. But when we really considered our future, and especially our friend relationships and people that were supporting us as a couple, we thought Norwood would be a better place to raise a family. It was 2007, and the housing bust was upon us. Fortunately, we had been pretty frugal, and we were in a position to make a strategic investment. My husband scoured the MLS, which is one of his favorite pastimes, and we found a duplex for sale on Delaware Avenue in foreclosure for $99,000. We bought it, fixed it up, got a downstairs tenant, and moved into the upper unit. This house served us well, and the extra rent helped us pay off student loans. We still own it, and we continue to rent to a young couple downstairs and Xavier students upstairs. We brought our first baby home to this house in 2009, and then shortly thereafter decided that we wanted a house with a yard and not to drag groceries up 2 to 3 flights of stairs. So we found another foreclosure on Cortland Avenue for $37,000. We did another renovation, long nights spent painting, and those of you that have done renovations know the deal. We moved again, and we had another baby. In this season of life, we founded Lydia's House, and we oversaw the purchase and complete renovation of 2 long vacant properties on Mills Avenue. After completing Lydia's House, we found a long-term house for us, amazingly not in foreclosure, and we bought a large single family with a 2-car garage for $99,000 on Carter Avenue in 2014. We did another complete renovation. At this point, we have 2 young children, so mostly my husband does a complete renovation. We make another move, and then, you can guess it, another baby. Apparently, there's something in the plaster, especially when you are removing it. And then in 2017, through Lydia's House, we oversaw the purchase of what may have been the worst building in West Norwood. So close your eyes, imagine what was the old Haps Market on the corner of Carter and Mills. My husband is currently working to renovate this 8-unit beast to make it mixed income housing for folks that have already found a home in Norwood but would like to be able to afford to stay. I share a housing story because I think it encapsulates the housing market in Norwood well. The housing stock, by definition, allows for many kinds of people, or, as my story demonstrates, the same people moving through many stages of life. As we look at the interviews that were conducted this year about Norwood, the most consistent feedback was, we want Norwood to remain a place where many kinds of people live together. This shared desire can be the synergy point around which strategic housing decisions are made for our shared future. As many who were interviewed commented, and we've also lamented, there can be a shadow side to living outside the realm of the cookie-cutter suburbs. It's no secret that we have both landlords and owners here that do not keep up properties. It's been frustrating to walk down overgrown sidewalks and have to steer our stroller into the road. It's been hard to be surrounded by grass that sometimes gets taller than our toddler. And we've wished for better paint jobs, porches free of debris, and edging. Oh, edged grass. I love the clean look of perfectly manicured lawns, even if I don't always have one. As my husband and I have owned and renovated, we've also become more familiar with the code. We know that laws are on the books to address many of these concerns. So I want to make a point to say, more than new laws or new committees or new organizations, perhaps we just need enforcement of what already exists. On the flip side of maintenance concerns, I joined many who were interviewed with wondering about what might happen to Norwood as housing prices rise. Norwood's housing market is hot right now. We were amazed when a house in West Norwood on Ivanhoe sold recently for over $300,000. We literally never thought we would see that day. And so there was a moment where we're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. What could our house sell for? Followed like immediately by, oh my gosh, what is happening to our neighborhood? So with high dollar homeowners will probably come more edging, yay! But also houses that start to outprice many who have long lived here, and a change to the feel of the neighborhood that many of us love and chose to come to as is. The Norwood housing story forms the foundation of our collective story. Who makes up Norwood? The people that live here. And how do they live here? In some kind of housing. The cost of that housing, the standards for maintaining it, the infrastructure that surrounds and supports it, will define who lives here and how our community grows. When we tackle the question of housing, we're really tackling the questions of what kind of city are we and what kind of city do we want to be? How housing questions are answered will define the future of Norwood.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I think a lot of us feel the same way, so appreciate those remarks. Our next speaker is Alicia Locke. Alicia and her husband, Colin, have been in Norwood residence for about 4 years. They have 2 girls, Olive and Leona. Alicia has been a long-term sub at Norwood High School and is currently in a mentoring program here in Norwood with high school students. Let's welcome Alicia. She's going to talk to us about community perception.
I am a stay-at-home mom living on the south side of Norwood, near Xavier, and right next to the future Wasson Way, which we are super excited about. My husband and I bought our home almost 4 years ago as we were just starting our family. We were looking in several neighborhoods, hoping to live in a central area, near the highways, and not far from downtown. But Norwood was not even on our radar. We knew almost nothing about it. We didn't even know what Norwood really was, like Rookwood, that's not Hyde Park. And we'd also heard the negative Norhood slur. Fortunately, though, our realtor showed us our home, which we immediately fell in love with. The old home charm, walking distance from the elementary school on a quiet street. We were impressed not only with how much more house we could get for our money as opposed to Hyde Park or Oakley, but also with the community itself. Norwood is a tight-knit community, which you know, with a lot of small town potential. There's a strong sense of identity, of being separate from Cincinnati, which gives us a lot of opportunity. Our own school system means our children can go to school with their neighbors, and with a smaller locality, we as residents can enact change with forums like this. We are enjoying living here, and we're looking forward to a continually improving future for our town. But As I promote Norwood to other young families looking to put down roots and buy homes, I keep being reminded of our sometimes negative community perception. Our friends love Hyde Park, Oakley, Pleasant Ridge, but they have this idea that Norwood is not somewhere they'd want to be. Deeper than outward perception, our own residents during this survey have issues with how they perceive our city. Maybe that comes from actual existing problems that we've heard about, especially with infrastructure, as Hillary articulated, but it's also bigger than that. In these surveys, dozens told us that they feel that Norwood is resistant to change and progress, which leads to a perception that we're declining. Unfortunately, that negativity comes out in in-person conversations and also especially on social media. There's a lot of complaining and blaming. People regularly break up car break-ins, drug use, loud parties, which are usually assumed to be Xavier students, which hurts our perception of the university, and people loitering around Montgomery Road and in parking lots. This all contributes to a general uneasiness, the facts and the talking about the facts. Even those charged with protecting us, the police, aren't always seen as allies in our neighborhoods. I myself am sometimes unsure if our neighborhood is really safe. I won't visit the parks alone with my little girls. I haven't been inclined to walk to many destinations or explore my community, and I don't know most of the neighbors on my street. I don't know if the scary stuff is really as prominent as it seems, or if it just gets disproportionately put in the spotlight on social media, but that is my main source of information about Norwood, so it does affect me, and it does others as well. But as I fight my own leery perception of Norwood, I'm seeing amazing things. This summer has been awesome. I've walked to a Mommy and Me Spanish class, not only held in a great little building in Norwood, but also the cost of the class was funded in part by our local fire department, and it's attracted people from all over Cincinnati and northern Kentucky. I've walked to the community garden for story time. One night, 15 kids were there. It was friendly, familial, and fun. And on my way to the garden, I walked past May's winner of Yard of the Month, which is apparently a new contest from a local realtor. Such a fun acknowledgement. A few weeks ago, my family and I finally took our first stroll through Victory Park. We'd only heard negative reviews, so we didn't rush over there, but we saw a lot of potential. And groups last summer used the park for some great community events, and we're looking forward to that this summer as well. Larger than my family, on social media, I've seen locals, one man in particular, organize to help neighbors make their properties look better. Amazing camaraderie. And families are coming together at local parks for playdates. Farmers markets, community gardens, businesses like Brick Coffee Company and Mariah Pie are seeing success and growing in popularity. We are moving in an exciting direction. The reality of our city really is optimistic. I haven't met a person who's moved here in the past few years that's unhappy with their decision. But perception is far more important than reality when it comes to shaping a community. Negative perception drives negative decisions. People won't move here, they won't stay here, businesses won't come, people won't meet their neighbors or explore their community. And those negative decisions drive a more negative future for our city. But the reverse is true. Our flaws are not the only truths about Norwood. There are so many positive things about us, and with a little rebranding, we can use those positive truths to lead to positive decisions and a more positive future for Norwood.
Thank you, Alicia. So we have with us the president of the Queen City Balladeers and a founding member of the Norwoodians. Please welcome to speak on community engagement, Alana Johnson.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. We'll all be together in that land. We'll all be together in that land. We'll all be together in that land where I'm bound. Thanks. Norwood has an eccentric, independent, and casual vibe that is very attractive to artistic types. Norwood is the home of two vibrant and well-established music organizations, the Queen City Balladeers and the Riley School of Irish Music. Many people have never heard of these groups or the free concerts they provide. I represent the Queen City Balladeers. I also have a band called the Norwoodians, and we play at the Farmers Market every summer. Some of the Queen City Balladeers played for the Heroin Coalition meeting held here at this high school. We actively seek out volunteer situations. Music brings people together like no other medium. However, music is subjective. Everyone has their own likes and dislikes. And Norwood is a diverse community and has several music niches. The Farmers Market, churches, the pizza place on Mills, the saxophone player on Montgomery Road, all reflect Norwood's diverse culture. I believe that this diversity could be a great recipe for a music festival in Victory Park. One Saturday in the summer, we could bring several bands in the gazebo, some food trucks, free games for kids, bring your picnic baskets and a blanket. Also, some other what-ifs. Imagine our community center open at night for yoga classes, book clubs, a drum circle, a music jam, open mic night. Imagine Xavier University partnering with the Norwood Community Coalition. Xavier has an intrinsic interest in the development of housing and well-being of Norwood's neighborhoods. Many students live and work in Norwood. What a fantastic opportunity for community involvement. Imagine Xavier students volunteering to play basketball at the community center with teens. Imagine a Xavier/Norwood bike club. Imagine Norwood block parties to welcome Xavier students into your neighborhood in the fall. Students, meet your neighbors. I moved to Norwood 4 years ago because I believe that it is a rising star community. I never thought it would happen so fast. Norwood is having an economic boom. This city is hot. People want to buy homes here. I want to be part of the new community. Norwood could have gentrification, or it would be great for a revitalization of the neighborhoods. New people are moving in, and people who have moved out are returning, and together are creating an exciting new vibe. Norwood is on the cusp of great rejuvenation. Let's start using what we have, our parks and community center. Let's clean it up and fix it up. Let's rejoice in our diversity and brag about it to the entire world. Instead of going outside of Norwood for something to do, let's make the fun we want to have. Thank you.
Okay, I have two people that I'll be introducing. Leslie Stevenson has been involved in Greater Cincinnati community for nearly 10 years. She moved to Norwood in 2013 and currently serves Ward 1 on City Council. And then we have Andrew Clark, a lifelong resident, Norwood High School graduate, co-publisher and editor of the Norwood Star. His daily job is serving regional directors as communication director. Thank you.
So good morning. I just want to share two stories with you this morning that are very similar, but the outcomes are very different. So if you know anything about my family, we are a sports family. We love sports. I, however, was a bench warmer, but my brother was very talented when it came to sports. So growing up, he played knot-hole here in Norwood. My dad was his coach, and we got to the field and conditions just weren't up to what we thought they should be. So my dad, being who he is, when he sees a problem, he jumps in and he fixes it. So he took his own equipment, his own time, his own money, and he went and dragged the infield, got it ready for a game. Now, my dad's not somebody who wants attention or reward or anything like that. I don't think he expected that nor wanted it. But I certainly don't think he expected what he got, and that was a threat to be thrown in jail. Yeah, you heard that right, a threat to be thrown in jail. Apparently, he was taking away work from some of our city employees. Now, my dad didn't want to cause trouble. He just was trying to get the field ready for a game. That's all he wanted to do. So fast forward a little bit, and my brother now is playing basketball for the Norwood Middle School. Now, this story has a very different outcome. So the court this time, if you've ever been to the Norwood Middle School field house, it's concrete stairs that you sit on. The paint, however, was peeling off of the stairs. And again, my dad, being who he is, decides that he's going to paint all of these stairs. So he gets together a group of parents, teachers, volunteers, residents, and one Saturday they spend their whole Saturday painting these stairs as the school colors, red and blue. It ends up looking amazing. And I can almost guarantee that the kids that day played a little bit harder. They had pride. They were excited to get out on the court and play. So that story had a very, very different outcome. He was greeted, and as was all the volunteers, with praise and acclamation because it was about the kids. And you know, I would venture to say that we have many, many people like my father in this community that want to get involved and want to help. We just have to make a pathway for them to do so. Leslie?
Andrew, I really appreciate your second story, and it's a lot more familiar to me in my experience of volunteering. When I moved to Norwood, I was working at Gabriel's Place as a volunteer. So I want to tell you a little bit about that experience and why it gives me hope for what we could do in Norwood. So Gabriel's Place is located in Avondale. It's our neighbor just to the west. It started off as a vacant church in a residential area right along Reading Road. Yet it was surrounded by children, youth, and seniors who all had the same need. They needed a safe, beautiful, spiritually nourishing place where they could gather in mutual respect, learn some things, interact, and then go out in peace. That's the mission of Gabriel's Place. It's become known for its community meals. It had a hoop house in its garden, its farmer's market, even its culinary programs for youth. But all of that was achieved in partnership. It took the Avondale Development Corporation, it took the Avondale Community Council, it took the Diocese of Southern Ohio, the actual church, it took the city, Hamilton County Community Action Agency, it took Place Matters and LISC, one of our sponsors here today, all working together. I haven't shared this before, but even before Gabriel's Place opened its doors, that group of partners got an award for working together. That's how strong their partnership was. We were able to bring together volunteers and program opportunities and build some valuable assets for our neighborhood. And ultimately, that led to local, state, and federal funding, not just for that organization, but for the community. You see, by building a partnership, we built trust. We trusted each other, and we began to lay a foundation to improve the experience in Avondale. One of the memories I have first is that we were able to participate in United Way's Day of Action. I was the volunteer coordinator, and I remember preparing breakfast for hundreds of people who came to Avondale. They came to Gabriel's Place and then went out into the community. They beautified the library, they beautified the parks, they even put flowers in the senior living apartments. We went on to partner with the Reds Foundation. They came in and actually renovated the ballpark at the rec center. And while it's undergoing renovations again, that led to a baseball game with District 4 police and families in Avondale. They actually had a summertime ballpark game, and it really was a hit. Today, the Avondale Development Corporation and many of those same partners, including Gabriel's Place, which is seen as a health resource in the community, they're using federal funds to renovate housing, to build new retail. And there's even beautiful entryways to the neighborhood that didn't exist before. The reality is Norwood's kind of got a similar setup. We do have limited financial resources, and we do have growing needs. However you got here today, you probably went over some of those streets Hillary talked about. we are centrally located, and when our surveys, people really said, hey, we value that. We value having a central location, but what we know is we don't have a central access point to coordinate partners. We do have some wins. Earlier this summer, though, just this month, our city council was able to partner in renovating Northwoods Park. Cincinnati Children's Hospital donated the equipment, and many of you showed up to put together the playground equipment. We had businesses donate food, we had families and friends show up, and as a result, just next Saturday, on the 30th, after you go to the farmer's market, we're partnering with the Cincinnati Shakespeare Company to host a showing of A Midsummer Night's Dream. That's because the park has been beautified. So yeah, woohoo, if you showed up at Northwoods to help build that day, if you brought food, if you cheered on somebody else who built that day, would you stand up and be recognized for your efforts? I share these stories because we have all the right pieces to make our own gathering places right here in Norwood. As a city, we really like, and you've heard, we want to build on our small town feel. As a city, we could be partnering with organizations, the city of Cincinnati, Hamilton County, surrounding neighborhoods, Xavier, other organizations. With partners, we actually might find the right creative resources, strategies to help alleviate our financial crisis and respond to the needs of the community. You all have said, hey, we need resources for mental health services. We need resources for workforce training. With residents like you who are here today, we could coordinate our passion, our energy, our time, our assets, and build towards a city future we can all enjoy.
All right, thank you guys. It's exciting to see the change in Norwood from when Andy's father was growing up and trying to do good things, and now we can have partnerships like painting parks and building parks and not have to worry about being thrown in jail just to help our community out. So I look forward to seeing all that comes out of this group and more that we can accomplish. Now we're going to move into our last speaker today, which is Danny Burris. And I had the opportunity to meet, no, you can stand, feel free to, I'm sorry. I wasn't done yet. But I had the opportunity to meet Danny through Facebook last year when I started getting active online. And, you know, I knew immediately she was special, but through this process, I've really had the opportunity to see a lot more about her story and just see how accurate that really was, that first impression was. Let's just say there's a reason why we saved Danny for last today. Danny's lived in Norwood off and on for the last 15 years. She's a proud graduate of Norwood High School. She has 2 children who are currently in Norwood Public Schools. And she's also extremely proud of the fact that just next week, she's going to be graduating from AmeriCorps, where she's going to continue to give back to our city and our local community. So that should be a accomplishment. So yeah, let's give her a round of applause for that as well. So with that, I'm honored to let Danny speak and let you guys hear what she has to say about inclusion here in Norwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I may not be a homegrown Norwoodian, but I've been here since I was 17. Do you ever have that community which you always find your way back to? No matter how far you go, you always come back. It's kind of like your home. Well, Norwood has been that for me, except it's never felt like home. I've never felt truly welcomed here, ever. Boy, do I have some stories to tell you. They go back all the way back from high school and even up until a couple of weeks ago. I actually remember one cold morning, I wrapped my hair up to keep it from flyaways before I put my beanie on, because, you know, I'm kind of a diva. And I set out walking. This is when I lived on Spencer Avenue. And so I walked from Spencer Avenue in Hudson, give you an ideal picture, Spencer and Hudson to this building right here. And so after walking, go through my class, go throughout my day, and then it's lunchtime. So I'm walking in the lunchroom. I got my lunch in hand, walking around. I'm looking for my seat because I wasn't friends with too many people. So if you knew me, I'm sorry. I'm looking for my seat, and then the assistant principal stops me. He stands in front of me, and I remember him looking at me and saying, "I need you to remove your bandana." I touched my head, confused. I said, what in the world he's talking about? And then remembered I had on a red bandana that day. I said, okay, I have no problem doing so. But you see that girl right there in the blue Norwood shirt, the blonde hair, and the same red bandana? She needs to remove hers first. He looked at me like, are you really challenging me? I looked back at him, scared in my body, like I sure am. And then he gave me a smirk, and I went about my way. I was angered. I was hurt. I was confused as to why this grown man is singling me out. Why is he just starting stuff? What's the reason behind it? I was just freezing that day. I was worried about flyaways, like I said. I wasn't worried about anything about a gang because before Norwood, I was homeschooled. That means like legit homeschooled. My mom set up a classroom for the 5 of us and taught us herself as well as running her own business, again, on Spencer Avenue. That was over 14 years ago in this very building. Brought me back to see, yeah, 14 years ago, goodness. Now I'm a mother of 2, one of which wants to be a police officer. Can you imagine my beautiful chocolate skin, rich chocolate skin, smoother than mine, son wants to be a police officer? We live in a community in which the police are afraid of him. We live in a community in which, not that long ago, I found out that there has never been an officer on our force that looks like myself or my child. Do you know how much that hurts me? Have you ever, imagine this, have you ever had to tell your son, baby, you can never own a toy gun? He's like, why, mommy? It's what most kids do. I'm like, you can never own a toy gun unless it's bright yellow, it looks like a fish, and you can tell it's fake. He looked at me confused as to why. Then I had to tell my boy, my sweet little boy, about a kid only a few years older than him that never came home because he was shot dead by the police who are supposed to serve and protect. This 12-year-old child was playing just like every other kid, every other boy wants to play with a gun. He was playing with a toy gun and murdered. He could never go home to his mommy. I had to tell my son that story last summer. It broke my heart. And then to know that we live in a community in which we're not that welcomed. Case in point, another few years ago, our wonderful Mayor Williams writing a letter in which he calls out race-baiting cowardly officials of color, specifically Black leaders. He calls us out in order to support the Norwood Police. Again, mind you, there's never been a person of color on the Norwood Police Department. So where is, okay, are you protecting your citizens to make sure we're safe? Are you blinding some other stuff? But thanks to that, I saw a start. I saw a fresh future. I saw a new day in Norwood form. I saw many people come together to support a different community than what I knew about. Also, thanks with that in mind, and with all that pain in my heart, I've been doing what I've been scared to do. I've been speaking up. I'm thankful for that opportunity because that opportunity led me to AmeriCorps. That opportunity led me to go through the training, the hard, stressful training of making a different person within me so that I could come out and do things that others were afraid of. I can come out and teach others how to have those courageous conversations. I can come out and show I am here to support you no matter what. I am here to give you a little push so that you can speak your truth. so that you can be bold and empowered to say your story. So ever since then, I've been calling others out on their racism. I'm not going to say anything else but racism. Yes, I said it. Somebody has to. Ever since then, I've been pushing back and finding a voice I never knew and finding encouragement. I want to take this time to thank those who have been instrumental in my life, as well as pushing me to go to AmeriCorps. People like Miss Alice. Miss Alice, if you don't mind standing, I love you. I want to thank you right now. People like Miss Angela. People like Mary Ellen. Miss Alice has shown me so much. Then all these other support factors, even Pastor Josh has shown me, encouraged me that I can keep speaking out, that I have a voice, has shown me, encouraged me that no matter what or who tries to stop me, that I need to keep going. Because of my time in this city, because of my time with AmeriCorps and all of the different things I've experienced, I have started to see a different community. I have started to see a different Norwood than what I saw before. I have started to finally recognize Norwood as that gem of the Highlands, as that place where I might possibly be able to call home. So I also want to take this time and ask that you all come and join us. Come and join all of us that came on this stage to make a difference, to make a better Norwood than what we are known for, to make a united Norwood, to make a diverse Norwood, to make a home in Norwood for all. If you guys don't mind, shortly we're going to be dispersing to talk about this more. I ask that you have an open mind and an open heart, not just to see what you know, what you bring to the table, but also to look at those who don't have a voice. Look around you and see who is not represented here, who needs to be represented. There are many who are missing from this story. So what are you going to do about it? That is my challenge to you. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, guys. Wow, you guys did great. Let's give them another hand. Woo! I hope you realize how much time, effort, and courage it took for every one of these community members to speak to you today. It took a lot of work, and I really, truly appreciate all of them telling you stories, true stories from their past, true stories that have impacted them in our community. And I hope you realize what the message was. The message was that the past doesn't have to define us. We can change. We can impact the future. Keep that message in your heart as we move forward here in a few minutes. The future depends on us. The next part of our process is going to be held in the cafeteria. We'll tell you how to get there, well, what to do in just a second. You're just going to go out these doors and turn left. And it's going to be led by our consultant, Jim Caprero. And Jim's sitting way back in the back. If you want to turn around, he's raising his hand back there. Jim has been involved in quality of life planning since 1988. He has worked in over 130 neighborhoods, including 27 LISC cities. He's worked in Cincinnati, in the areas of Madisonville, in Newport, and he's currently also working in Avondale. When asked why he does this, he says he loves working with normal people in normal places who rise to the occasion to become good, strong leaders, and as a collective group, actually improve the quality of life in their communities. Communities just like Norwood. And when it comes out, it's a beautiful thing. So, after our group work, which you guys are all going to get to participate in, we'll have lunch. So Allison is going to be out here, and she's going to point you to the cafeteria. She's going to hand you a template, a paper that we're going to work by, and on that template there's going to be a number. In the cafeteria, the tables are all numbered. If you just go to the table that has the number on your template, and Jim will be explaining to us everything we're going to do next. So we're going to let these people on the stage, let's give them one more hand, please, as they lead us out. So we'll follow them out this door. It might take a few minutes because there's only one way out, but please follow them and let's get to work. Thank you.